African Americans, who were fed up with trying to assimilate. And they made up in their minds that we're going to go back to recapture our African roots. And so you had many of them begin to do research in the great societies and the great kingdoms of Africa. And they began to connect in some ways physical and some ways spiritual connection back to African, to the continent of Africa, to give them some sense of pride. But you're going to learn shortly that that was off, because initially they were not willing to tell us where the boats pulled up in Africa, but we're going to show you exactly where the boats pulled us up in Africa. And so many of our people began to claim the successes of other countries in Africa, which had nothing to do with the actual people that were in America. Right? And so many of the people, because they began to say, you know what, I'm an African, this is where I'm from. You even had the start of the country, Liberia, where many of our people went back to Africa. Right? And they began to say, like, this is what we are now. We're not Americans, we're African Americans. This is where that initial process of going from, you know what they called us on plantations, to colored, to Afro-American, to African-American, black, or whatever you want to call it, right? But as I stated before initially, how many people do you know in the history of the civilization are connected to a whole continent? Our people are the only people who have to claim a whole entire continent instead of actually pointing it to the direction that we are. So we see that, yes, we got some pride, yes, we got some knowledge from the Pan-African movement, but has it changed the people as a whole? No. All we have is a bunch of people sitting in debates, going back and forth, doing what the Bible calls as vain babbling. You argue your point, I argue my point. There is no recognition of the Most High in it. No change. So what we're doing is going back and forth saying, no, we need to do this. No, you need to do that. We need to do this. No change. So we see the political and the social assimilation did not work. Then they went to the Pan-African movement. And to this day, as a totality, has it changed your community? No. All right. Jay put in there the link for Fard Muhammad. Now, the next popular thing, knowledge, that our people began to go into was Islam. Now, many of the people today that are practicing the religion of Islam in America that are black, most of you, if you was honest, went down this path as a rebellion to the Bible, because you believed that it was a white man's book and a white man's religion that was used to enslave and to keep us in a spiritual and mental bondage, right? But like I said on the video last week, that myth is dispelled because none of these people actually met the requirements and the standards of what Christ said a follower was. So my brother's going to put this link into the box so that you can see it and do your own research in your own time about who was the founder of the Nation of Islam in this country. His name is Wallace Fard Muhammad. Yes. A white man. Yeah. Wallace Fard Muhammad is the founder of the Nation of Islam in America. Now, Jay, go into this. We're going to read a few excerpts from this for a moment. just to give you some information on it. We put the link in there for you to do your own research because we don't want you to think that I'm in here speaking my own opinion. You'll be able to get a chance to see it for yourself. All right? All right, so we're going to go in here. We're going to take a look at this. All right, so Jay, read the opening paragraph there about your boy Fard Muhammad.
Wallace Fard Muhammad, born February 26, 1877, was a co-founder of the Nation of Islam. He arrived in Detroit in 1930 with an obscure background and several aliases, and taught a distinctive form of Islam to members of the city of African American population. He disappeared in 1934.
Okay. Now, so this guy, a white guy, just shows up in Detroit in 1930. Many people don't know where he came from. He was telling one people that his name was this and was telling other people that his name was this. And he began to go to the African American population in Detroit and began to teach them this particular form of Islam. Now, it also says that in 1938, a sociologist by the name of Erdman Benyon published in American Journal of Sociology, giving his first-hand account of several interviews that he did with the followers of Wallace Fard Muhammad. Now, you can go research this on your own. You can look up the 1938 American Journal of Sociology, where this was published, where different interviews were given to the leaders, to the followers of Fard Muhammad. Now, Jay, start right there in the notes where it talks about, it says, from those interviews.
From those interviews, Benyon wrote that Fard lived and taught in Detroit from 1930 to 1934. He came to the homes of black families who recently migrated to Detroit from the rural South.
Okay.
He began by selling silk door to door, telling his listeners that the silk came from their home country. At his suggestion, he came back to teach the residents along with guests. In the early stage of his ministry, Fard used the Bible as his textbook since it was the only religious book with the majority of his hearers were familiar. With growing prestige over a constantly increasing group, Fard became bolder in his denunciation of Caucasians and began to attack the teachings of the Bible in such a way as to shock his hearers and bring them to emotional crisis.
Okay, so let's stop there. So this Caucasian man who had this revelation on Islam began to go to the Detroit area and teach all these people. First he came in the door talking about he was selling them silk for their home company. Then he switched to saying, yo, I got some knowledge that I want to put you on. Then he switched, well, let me use the Bible because I know that's what you're with. And then he switched and said, you know what? All white people are bad. This white person, right, is telling these black people that all white people are bad, they're no good for you. And matter of fact, that Bible is no good for you. Now, why in the world do you think this was done? Just think about it. Let's go a little further. Right there it says, Fard named his community.
Fard named his community the Nation of Islam. Following the rapid increase of membership, Fard instituted a formal organizational structure. He established the University of Islam, where school-aged children were taught rather than in public schools.
Okay, now let's stop here. So one of the first things he did was he went after the children and pulled them out of the public schools. Notice, this is in 1934. Schools are not segregated at this time. So black kids were going to black schools taught by black teachers, getting taught their own cultures, their own history by their own people. Then he went in, formed a school, and began to teach them some new revelation that he had. All right, go further.
According to Binion, Farr's followers grew to approximately 8,000. Within 3 years, the prophet not only began the movement but organized it so well that he himself was able to recede into the background, appearing almost never to his followers during the final months of his residence in Detroit.
Okay, so all of a sudden now, from 1930 to 1934, you have this white man shows up in Detroit and forming all this organization that got about 18,000 people that he had convinced to go away from the Bible, right? Guess who was his prime protege? Yep, Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad gave him credit for all of his learning that when he took over the Nation of Islam. Now, something that is very important is that after Elijah Muhammad took to the head of the Nation of Islam, that's when the white guy, Fard Muhammad, disappeared. Nobody talked about him up until about 20 years until the Nation of Islam began to spread from Detroit to Chicago to New York. And then when the FBI began to do investigations into the Nation of Islam, when they had interviews with him, they would ask him, where are you getting this knowledge from? Where did this come from? Who taught you this? And when he would say his name, the FBI began to do a search to try to find who he was. Read that right down there where it says the search produced.
The search produced two fords of entry.